Hey, what's up, everyone? It's Kyle Henderson, BamaInsider.com. Thank you for joining us today. Be sure and like and subscribe. January 20th on 2020. Today, it's a Q&A series. You guys ask the questions. Today, I'm providing the answers. Be sure and catch more coverage on BamaInsider.com. First question in from Jarvis S. Do you think the defensive line will be better this year in terms of sacks and getting pressure on the quarterback? Did you know that Alabama only had 32 sacks last season as a team? That's pretty low compared to years past. I mean, you look at the years 2014 through 2016, Alabama was getting a lot more sacks, 40 to 50 sacks per season. So 32 sacks last year, disappointing in a sense from a statistical standpoint. But as Saban always says, it's not always about the sacks. There's other factors that contribute to the defense. Now, let's take last year. Anthony Jennings had 8 sacks. Terrell Lewis had 6. Decent numbers from the outside pass rush, but I think they have to do a better job of getting pressure on the quarterback, and that comes from the defensive linemen. A couple years ago, in 2018, Isaiah Buggs had 9.5 sacks. Quentin Williams had 8 sacks. This year, in 2019, check this out. Christian Barmore led the defensive line with 2 sacks. He didn't even start. We already talked about that before, right? He only had 250, 60 total snaps. So I think going forward, it's imperative that Alabama finds a defensive lineman, and I think that's going to be Barmore, that can get after the quarterback and provide pressure on the quarterback if that defense wants to be more successful going into the 2020 campaign. Next question in. Any word on the possible defensive coaching changes? Well, funny you should ask. We just posted this story on BamaInsider.com. Freddie Roach looks to be joining Alabama as a defensive line coach. Looks like Brian Baker, who coached the defensive line this past season for the Crimson Tide, will step off on an off-the-field position, and Freddie Roach will come and coach the defensive line. This will be Roach's 3rd coaching stint in Alabama, as the former Crimson Tide linebacker, served as the director of player development from 2015 to 2016, and worked as an assistant strength and conditioning coach with the Crimson Tide from 2008 to 2010. He was formerly at Ole Miss, where he coached the defensive line. And I think with Roach joining Alabama, it's going to be a big pickup for the Crimson Tide, because I think Brian Baker, while he does have the NFL resume, coached a lot of guys, Leonard Little, Julius Peppers, etc., I think now you have a guy that can connect more with the players. Not saying that Brian Baker didn't. I think that Roach is a little bit younger, might be able to mesh a little bit better with those guys. And then also from a recruiting perspective, it makes a big deal. It's important to note that Freddie Roach is actually recruiting McKinley Jackson. So it'll be interesting to see if McKinley Jackson heads to the Crimson Tide with Alabama picking up Freddie Roach. Just keeping you in the loop. Next question. Do you view Tua's 3 years at Alabama somewhat as a disappointment? No, not at all. Threw for over 2,800 yards this past season, 33 touchdowns, threw for over 300 yards 4 different times, 8-1 as a starter at Alabama this past season. I think it's disappointing when we look at what he could have done, right? I think he probably feels that he could have won a national championship at Alabama. I heard some rumblings that he wanted to come back this coming season, and things just didn't go his way. So he enters the NFL draft, and I think things are going to really work out for Tua Tagovailoa. Disappointing in the sense that we didn't see him win another national championship for the Alabama Crimson Tide, but I don't think it's a disappointment. I mean, look what he did. 7,442 yards with 87 touchdowns. Not too big of a disappointment, in my opinion. Can't wait to see what he can do in the NFL. Next question. With Xavier McKinney going pro, who do you think will step up in the safety position? I think Saban's going to have a couple guys to look at. Unproven guys, maybe not too much. You got Jordan Battle and Daniel Wright. I know Jordan Battle started a couple games last season as a freshman. Daniel Wright is a redshirt junior now. So I think, you have guys to choose from, but I think those are unproven guys still. So Saban's going to look to those guys. Those guys have to do a lot of growing up over the springtime. Battle is someone that you should really be excited about. I think he has a lot of the attributes that Xavier McKinney displayed over the past couple years at Alabama. I also like DeMarco Hellams. He's a bigger safety. I think he could be the thumper. So look for Jordan Battle to maybe play that ball hawk, and then look for DeMarco Hellams or Eddie Smith to be that guy that could lay the wood. I do like the safeties. I just think that they need a little bit more experience, and they should get that during the springtime. John Phillips also asks, now with Xavier McKinney gone, who will be that alpha dog on the defensive side, especially in the secondary? Surtain perhaps? Well, I think it's a great question, and I think this is something that happens over the springtime. I'm kind of curious myself, who in that secondary room is going to really rise up and grab the defense and say, look, I'm the alpha male. I want to lead you to the promised land. Is it going to be Patrick Surtain? Does he have that vocal ability? Is he going to be more of a lead by example type guy? Is it going to be a younger guy that steps up? Is it going to be Daniel Wright, who looks to be more of the veteran back there? I guess only time will tell on that, but it's a great question. Something I'm really curious in as well. Andrew Bowman asks, who will win the right tackle position? Well, I think that's going to be an easy one. I think it's Evan Neal. You're going to move him probably from the guard position to the tackle position. As you know, at 6'7", 360 pounds, he's more of a tackle, more of a natural tackle. And I think with him moving to that tackle position, now you have Alex Leatherwood at the left tackle position. You have Evan Neal at the right tackle position. And I think who moves to guard is probably Emil Ekiyor. So look at that offensive line. You have Leatherwood, you have Emil Ekiyor, you have Landon Dickerson, you have Deontay Brown, and then you have Evan Neal. I really like Alabama's offensive line going into 2020. There's a couple guys behind that can also provide some depth. You have Chris Owens, you have Darian Dalcourt, you have Pierce Quick, Tommy Brown, Amari Kite. Those are kind of the guys next in line. So I really like Alabama's offensive line going into the season. Andrew Bowman also asked, how do you figure DJ Dell and Christian Barmore can get on the field at the same time? Great question. And I think Saban will figure that out. I mean, there's a couple different scenarios that can go into this. Either way, I think Christian Barmore needs many more snaps. I think he's a guy that can be a complete pass rusher. I think he can stop the run. Played angry. We've talked about him several times, but I don't think that means sit DJ Dell out, because I think DJ Dell is very good, especially against the run defense. So maybe in short yardage situations, you have DJ Dell. Maybe in pass rush situations, you have Christian Barmore. Look for a guy like Fedarian Mathis. Look for a guy like Ismail Sobcher to step up. So there's a lot of depth. I know I like a lot of guys, Byron Young, Justin Mbogbe, so much experience from that youthful group that saw a lot of playing time as freshmen in 2019. So I'm not worried about the defensive line. I do think that it's imperative that Christian Barmore gets many more snaps in 2020. All right, got 6 questions coming in from Dorsey. I listed them because I thought they're all good questions. Assuming Najee is number 1, who do you think will be the number 2 running back next season? I think that's easy. I think it's Trey Sanders, don't you? I think if he's healthy in the springtime, you're going to see what Trey Sanders was born to do, and that's run the rock. I think that's tote the rock, catch the ball out of the backfield. I think with his speed, his size, Trey Sanders is going to do something very special at Alabama. Is it going to be this season? I think we're going to see splashes of it, absolutely. So, yeah, I think he's going to be number 2. I don't think Alabama's just going to put Brian Robinson to the side, Killen Robinson to the side. Those guys are also going to get the mix. But I think the number 2 running back going into the season will be Trey Sanders. All right, the second question is, who do you see winning the quarterback battle? That's the biggest question going into 2020. And while I think a lot of people want to say Bryce Young, or they want to hear me say Bryce Young, look, I'm going to tell you differently. In my opinion, it's Mac Jones' position to lose. Now, think about this. He's the most experienced quarterback in the room. He has a ton of experience from last season. He threw for 235 yards against Arkansas, 275 yards against Western Carolina, 335 yards against Auburn, 327 yards against Michigan. Auburn and Michigan, those are 2 dynamic defenses, and Mac Jones balled out in those games. Yeah, I know he threw the 2 interceptions, but Mac Jones is a quality quarterback. A lot more athleticism than you think he does. I don't know if you guys saw him playing tennis. The kid can move side to side. He's actually the fastest quarterback on the team, believe it or not. So don't discount Saban giving Mac Jones all the chances to keep and retain that quarterback position. It's going to be something that you hear from me again and again. Now, do I think Mac Jones is going to have a short leash? I wouldn't say that, but I think Bryce Young is going to get his. I think the quarterback battle is between Bryce Young and Tua Tagovailoa for that number 2 position, at least going into the spring season. Now, the third question that Dorsey asks is, who do you think will be the new defensive coordinator this year? Look, I know you guys want Pete Golding gone. A lot of people are kind of waiting for Pete Golding to exit the building, but as we inch closer to February, Pete Golding is still in Tuscaloosa. He's still recruiting for the Crimson Tide. And the longer that Pete Golding is here and the closer that we get to February, the less likely that Golding leaves from Alabama. So right now, Pete Golding, still your man at the defensive coordinator position for the Crimson Tide. All right, Dorsey's still at it with another question. Who do you think will make an impact next season out of the 2020 recruiting class? I think it'd be a couple of guys. And speaking with Andrew Bone, William Anderson looks like a guy that a lot of people are excited about. And I think he could be a guy, if he can get to the quarterback, same with Chris Broswell. Those guys could get to the quarterback and really prove that they have what it takes to get to the quarterback. I think they'll see a lot of playing time and make an impact. The newest addition, probably Ronald Williams, the junior college transfer, he could be a guy that earns a starting spot, right? Josh Jobe, Jalen Armour-Davis. In my opinion, those positions are open. So if Ronald Williams can come in and prove that he can earn that starting spot and be the best corner, then look at Ronald Williams to come in and make the biggest impact. Demoy Kennedy is another name that I know a lot of people are excited about, the linebacker position, and then also Christian Story. Got to find a way to get him on the fields. Very talented athlete coming in from 2020. All right, Dorsey's got two more. I like the questions, Dorsey. What position do you think we don't have enough depth at? Well, I think there's enough depth everywhere, honestly. I mean, I was looking at the depth chart. Depth's everywhere at Alabama, but I think they're lacking quality experience in the secondary. You look at guys, Xavier McKinney left, Shaheem Carter left, Jared Maiden left, Trayvon Diggs left. So replacing those guys is going to be a tall task for Alabama, but they can figure that out in the springtime. There's enough guys returning and enough guys on that roster that can get the job done. Patrick Surtain, as we talked about already, has to step up and be that guy. Josh Jobe, Jalen Armour-Davis, Jordan Battle, DeMarco Hellams, Eddie Smith. See, there's a lot of guys, Marcus Banks, a lot of guys in that secondary room with a lot of ability, and I think they're going to figure it out. It just might take a little bit of time, even until week 1, till we figure out just exactly who will be starting in the secondary. All right, last question from Dorsey. Who do you think will be our hardest game next year? Well, you're always looking at game number 1, right? So if you ask Nick Saban, the first game against USC, neutral site setting. But in my opinion, I mean, when you look at the schedule from a glance, that Georgia game on September 19th is going to be very difficult. Very difficult to beat Kirby Smart. I'm glad that the game is home for Alabama Crimson Tide's sake, just because you're going to need home field advantage to beat a talented Georgia team. I know Georgia lost a lot of guys. Jake Fromm, you're going to have a new quarterback. But I think Kirby Smart has enough talent to come in here in Bryant-Denny and really give these guys a run. It's going to be a battle. And Nick Saban is undefeated against former assistant coaches. I have all the respect for Kirby Smart in terms of his coaching ability. I think Georgia is going to be a difficult game. I think traveling to LSU, those are some difficult games when you look at the schedule for 2020. All right, next question. This is from Ethan Wood. Why the hell did you move from California to Alabama? Hey, Ethan, I didn't move from California. I lived in California. Shout out to my friends out in Redondo and Hermosa Beach. But I moved from New Mexico to Alabama. And as Marshawn Lynch said, I moved to take care of the chicken. All right, moving on. Covering all River Region, Montgomery, Alabama asks, who do you think will be Alabama's 3rd and 4th wide receivers? A lot of guys. Xavier Williams, Terrell Shavers. How can Alabama get Terrell Shavers the football? Right? 6'6", 4'4", got to get him the football. Is this going to be the year, right? Still got a lot of guys coming back. Devontae Smith, Jalen Waddle, John Mechie. Other guys in that second fold could be Slade Bolden, even true freshman, Trayshawn Holden. So I think those are going to be the guys next in line. But Terrell Shavers, this will be an interesting year to see if he finally gets on the field for the Crimson Tide. A few more questions. Stay with us. Do you think any of Alabama's true freshman linebackers will see playing time? Yeah, I definitely do. Alabama needs a pass rusher, as I said earlier. So William Anderson, Chris Boswell, I think those guys can get on the field. Maybe Drew Sanders. I know a lot of people like his ability, but I do see some of these linebackers getting onto the field now. Are they going to start like Shane Lee and Christian Harris did this past season? No, I don't think so. And in fact, when I look at the depth chart, I don't see many true freshmen starting for the Crimson Tide in 2020. Could be a good thing. All right, this next question is coming in from Crimson Hayes. What incoming freshman will have the biggest impact on 2020? I've kind of touched on this a little bit. I think it's a great question. I think when you look at the depth chart, as I just mentioned, I don't see a lot of freshmen starting. I think a guy that could get on from this 2020 class would be Ronald Williams, just because it makes more sense at the corner position. But what do you guys think in the comment box? Which incoming freshman will have the biggest impact in 2020? I want to hear from you in the comment box on that one. Help me out. All right, a couple more to go. From Jamie Lehner. What do you think the team's biggest strength and biggest weakness will be in 2020? Oh, without a doubt, the biggest strength will be the mantra of this team. I think it's unfinished business. This team wants to get back to the top of the college football mountain. So that has to be the biggest strength. Guys like Dylan Moses, Najee Harris returning in 2020. Besides those guys being some of the most talented football players in all of America, I think that the leadership that this team has coming in, they're not going to be looking for a leader. Dylan Moses is the coach on the field. He's the alpha male on defense. And Najee Harris, I think he's the best running back in all of college football returning, right? I know you have Travis Etienne, you have Hubbard, but Najee Harris, I think, is the most complete back. So the mantra of unfinished business will certainly be the biggest strength. Biggest weakness, I think on paper, the secondary, just because of lack of experience. I already talked about it, replacing all those guys, but Nick Saban will figure it out. I mean, I don't know if you guys know this, but Nick Saban actually helps with the secondary. He calls himself a grad assistant. So along with Carl Scott and Charles Kelly, Nick Saban's also back there. So I think the secondary will tighten up sooner than later. Final question coming in from Michael Bradley. Who do you see on the offensive and defensive side that will have a breakout year? All right, the defense is easy for me. I think Christian Barmore, I've talked about him again and again. With more snaps, I think you're going to see more chaos in the backfield for opposing offenses. This guy is just playing at a very high level. Really like everything about Christian Barmore. And then on the offensive side, it's even more easy for me. Breakout year, you guys already love him, but Jalen Waddle. I mean, can you imagine what he can do with 500, 600 snaps? I mean, you're talking about a guy who could potentially be a Heisman candidate if used properly. Get him the football. Get Waddle the football in 2020, right? Well, I appreciate it. I appreciate all the questions. Thank you so much for taking the time to post the questions. I hope you guys enjoyed this video. Please like and subscribe, and please stay tuned for more coverage on BamaInsider.com regarding the Alabama Crimson Tide football team. Coming to you from beautiful Tuscaloosa, Alabama, Kyle Henderson, BamaInsider.com.